Yeah, you know, my brother, as I said, like these things are multi-connected, man. So we always talk about culture and tradition and history and language. Sometimes we talk about them as if they are, they are different. Yes, they are different, but then they are related, all of them. So you can't really have a culture if there are no traditions that sort of like support or inform that culture. It's a culture that's formed out of traditions. Umzekelo, a good example. It's a culture to sort of like it's our culture to greet abantu abadala yabo. You can't just pass by. You have to greet. Yeah, you can't just come and talk to me. You must greet me. So that's a cultural practice now. But then it would have started in a tradition maybe of actually greeting. So greeting is really just an acknowledgement. When you greet, which means I can see you, I see you. And then the other person responds, yebo, which means yes. Or you greet and say dumela, which means agree, confirm. Dumela uri re na le kgotso, which means agree and confirm that we have peace amongst each other. Then the other person will say, hey, yabo. Or you bula or ndiyabulisa, which means ndiyakuvumisa. I'm making you to agree. Ubula is to confess something. Usually it's used in a negative way. That's the connotation. Ubula is to confess incest, or mostly. But that's not the literal meaning of ubula. Ubula itself is to agree or to confess. So when you say ndiyabulisa, which means I'm making you to confirm first. Ndiyabulisa, it is naluxolo. Then the other person is like away, which means yes. So it's literally the same thing as dumela. Uri rena le kgotso, ati yena eya or ahe. So now that's a tradition which is part of a culture. But then in order for it to really come into effect, there needs to be language. Yeah, otherwise you can't have the tradition of greeting and the culture of respecting elders if there's no language. So now we understand language is what is actually the vehicle or the giant on whose shoulders our society stands. If we couldn't even speak, or whatever, and the best was this we wouldn't even be able to, express our ideas. We'd look like fools. So language itself is very important, and that's why I think like everything comes back to language. When you can understand the language of a people, then you understand the soul of those people. And even language, it has its own vibrations. The words have their own vibrations and frequencies. So words themselves are actual waves. They are science. So the word language comes from a Latin word. I think it's the word lingua. Yeah, lingua. Lingua means tongue. It's the same thing as ulwimi or ulimi or lilimi, which means tongue. And that's why, for me, languages and linguistics are the basis of really understanding the depth of a people and the world, really, For example, naming conventions. In some places, like Ghana, so in Ghana, people are named by days of the week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. In South Africa, people are named by Isganeko. So if there's an incident or when something that I wish to happen, or to convey a message, then I will name my child. Like my name, Sandile, which means there's enough of us now. Like we've expanded, we've grown, Sandile.
Yeah, it can even mean we have prospered.
Absolutely, we've become greater. Yeah, we've become more glorified, Sandile. Wonder, greatness, growth, and all that. So language really transfers and conveys the thoughts of a people. But that's why I think when we start to study languages, it's important that we look a bit deeper. There's usually like categories of languages. There's Semitic languages. They'll put your Arabic, they'll put your Hebrew, Aramaic, and all that. And then they'll say there's Germanic languages. That's why you have your English, your Dutch, your German. Then they'll say there's Romance languages. That's why you have your French and your Portuguese and your Italian and all that. And then they'll say you have Sub-Saharan, what do they call them? Niger Congo languages. But here's the thing about that. You can't just, bunch a group of people without understanding those languages. These people, they don't even know what language is, bruh. And then they will come and label us Niger Congo languages. When did they study our languages?
So where do our languages come from?
Our languages are the origin. Everything else comes from our languages. You understand? So the very creator speaks in our language. I know that some people will be like, that's blasphemy. But the creator, the source, as some people call, I'm not talking about this, I'm talking about the creator. Don't tell me, no, the universe, nature, the creator speaks our languages. So Tina, we speak the language of the creator because we are mini gods in a way. For simplicity, I'm gonna put it that way. We are gods, you see. So everything that we say in its purest form is really the language of the gods, the language of the Most High, you see. So I think it's easy to claim these things, Yabo, until it can be proven. So what I'm saying is the origin of language itself, the origin of sound, because language is really just sound manipulated in the mouth and in the throat and in the gut. Yabo. Sounds are manipulated either using the diaphragm or the throat or the mouth, the tongue and the palate and the alveolar ridge and the teeth and the lips. So now that's how sounds are organized. That's why in the field of linguistics called phonology, you see, in phonology, you have phonetics and phonology. In phonology, they study the structure of the language, but then in phonetics, that's why they study the sounds. And Minangitine did. We are the true originators of sounds. It's really just the manipulation of sounds to express ideas and put them in a coded manner, in a sort of like I don't want to say in a sort of like structured manner, yeah. Because sometimes you don't know how to transfer anger into words, so you shout. That's your anger. You're trying to tell them what you're feeling inside. So, but the very origin of language and the communication of language thereof in the written form, it starts with the sound and then it goes into the written form, which is where letters come from. So what I'm saying is that we are the true originators of language, speech, but also we are the originators of written language. So I made two claims already here, that we are the originators of what language is in terms of the sound, but also in terms of the text that's written down. So I will need to prove now that we have the oldest sounds in the world, the most ancient sounds, but also that the letters themselves originated with us and the names of the letters thereof. And I will prove that. So let's start with the letters. You know, they'll tell you that there's something called alphabet.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Where does the word alphabet come from?
It's crazy, man. So our people are so smart. They understand that there are things that are abstract, things you can't touch. But then there are things you can't touch or see or taste or smell, you can sense. But then there are things that you can actually see. For example, I can see you're a human. Umuntu. You see? Muntu. So I can see you. So now if I'm trying to transfer an idea to someone, how about I explain it in the way that they can understand with what they can see? So our ancestors did that when they were inventing script. So you have A, which is where the word alphabet comes from. Alpha is a Hellenized meaning that it has been colonized by the Greeks. It's a way that the Greeks pronounced a letter from our ancestors, the letter A. The Greeks pronounced it as alpha, but we didn't pronounce it as alpha. I'll tell you what we pronounce it as. And then there's B, which they call alphabet. B, which is in Greek beta or beta. But then that's not how we pronounce it. So these are two words. Alpha and beta, which means A and B, right? Alpha comes from a word which means the head, the leader, the senior one. You see, it means seniority. The word is the word alupa. Exactly. So when something is old, when something is senior, we say alupala. You see, alupala. Alupala means to become a certain state, but the root is alupa, which is where now alufa comes from. Now you would know that between P and F in our dialects of the Bantu languages, there's always that interchangeability. For example, when I say down there, in Nguni, I will say pansi. Or when I say land, in Nguni, I will say lipasi, like in Ndebele and Siput. But then if you speak a Sotho-Tswana language, you'd probably say fat. You see? Pansi or ipasi and fat. It's the same thing, P and F. Or another way, like to heal someone, to give someone health. In Nguni, we say elapa, which means to heal. But then in Setswana, bati alafa. Alafa. It's the same thing.
In Hebrew, they call it rafa.
Exactly.
To heal.
Now, which adds something else now. The R and the L. So in our languages, R and L are interchangeable. That's why it's easy to hear someone who says Basutu when they call a horse, but lipere, right? But then we say lipele or lipala. You see? So the L and the R are interchangeable, and the F and the P are interchangeable. So that's why you have alpha in other dialects, but the original word is alupa. That's why even in Hebrew, they say it's alaf in Hebrew, in one of the dialects. Because remember, even Hebrew itself has many dialects. In one of the dialects, they call it alaf. But then in a sister language, Assyrian and Akkadian, they would say alup or alap. Even in Hebrew, actually, they say alap. But you can see the root here. A, L, and P, or A, L, and F, which all comes from one word, alupa, which means to grow timid. Now, that's important because when someone grows up, right, you become untamed as a young man. But at the moment you become an old man, you are basically timid now. You've been domesticated. Do you get it? That's the idea of domestication. When you tame something, it becomes timid. Yalupa. It becomes subservient. Seniority comes, and an old man is very domesticated. It's a domesticated person. They don't really get very aggressive physically. So it comes from cows, right? When a bull is castrated, it becomes an ox. And then an ox is sort of like a timid version of a bull. Because an ox works, obeys. And it's also has a lot of strength. So in the plow, it would sometimes be the leader because the senior cow or the most experienced cow is the one that leads the others in the plow, right? Hence, inkomo eyalupeleyo, or a cow that has become alupa, is basically the senior, the ox. Alupa is the alpha, basically. You see, the senior one. It's the alpha. That's where this thing of alpha comes from. So that when they say alphabet, they're literally saying alupa, alpha, and that's how A now became A. Because when you say alupa, the first sound that comes out of your mouth is A. Alupa. It's a vowel. Alupa. Hence, our ancestors named that letter A. It's A because that's the sound that comes out of your mouth. And they used to draw the head of a cow, right? With horns. So it would be a head of a cow with horns. Now, what the Greeks did is that they just they took the head of the cow with horns, which is like an upside down capital letter of A, and then they turned it upside down. It became the A. The A that you see now in the English alphabet, when you turn it upside down, it's literally a cow head with horns. Because remember, back in the day, there were no letters. Our ancestors drew pictures. You see it on the walls every day. Even in Egypt, they drew pictures. Literally, they call it hieroglyphs. It's pictures. Those are letters. Those are alphabets. So that's A from the word alupa, which means the senior, something first. Hence, A is the first letter. B now. B literally comes from you see, liboda, or the wall of a house. But back in the day, the houses were like huts. Those round huts that you see. So it would be a round house, like a floor plan of a hut with a door open, for example. Or a hut with a door open. It's more like a B. It's like look at B. You see, it's a round floor plan with a door open. So the door enters. So it's circular. It's almost like this, yes. From the top, when you look at the floor plan of a house, it's like this. This is B. Bete, which means house in some of the in Kikongo. Bete means house. In isiXhosa, iboto. Iboto. It means a house. It's usually the undlunkulu, the house of the senior wife. Yabo. And then Kasisutu liboda, which means the walls. Because remember, this is a floor plan, which is the structure that the walls are gonna take. Liboda.
That's why they say it's Bethlehem.
Exactly. Bete lehlama, which means the house of bread, the house of plenty. It's the literal meaning means the house of bread, ne?
Libonda nenhlama.
Libonda lenhlama or libodo lenhlama okanye bete lehlama, which means the house of bread, the structure of bread, yabo. That's the denotation, the literal meaning, right? But then the connotation now, which means the figure of speech, is the fertile land. Is it? Yeah. It's the fertile land, which means it's the house of bread. That even here in South Africa, they used to say Bloemfontein. Is it Bloemfontein? Yeah, Bloemfontein is the bread basket of South Africa or Africa, because they used to produce a lot of agricultural products there. So it's the bread. It's basically the house of bread. I think actually Bethlehem is there. There's a place called Bethlehem because I'm not sure. So that's where B comes from. The letter B. It comes from the sound. B did not come first, the letter. The letter came after our ancestors noticed that when they call a house, it's B, bed, bodo, border. It's a house. Oh, when you say the sound B, let's just call it bed, because you know what comes to your mind when you say bed is the sound B first. When you say aloof, it's the sound A. So all the letters, that's how they got their names. Our ancestors started to notice when I call something, the first letter that comes out, it's a particular letter, and then they would name that letter based on whatever the name they were saying is. So that's A and B. Alupa, border, or alupala, ibonda. Yebo? Alpha, bed. Literally, it's those two words. It's crazy because this is also the same word. Those two words is the same reason why we have the name Baba or Bao. It's literally those two words, consonant and a vowel. So some languages may reverse it. Instead of Baba, they would have Abba or Ababa. Like in Ethiopia, they say Addis Ababa, but Ababa literally means Baba. Yabo. Even in the Bible, that Abba, Father, Yabo. It's the same thing, Baba.
Abba, Baba.
Exactly, Baba, Tata, which means Rara. You see. But anyway, let me go back to Baba. Baba is two alphabets. Two alphabets. The consonant B and the sound vowel A. Now we said A means seniority. A means the first one, the most experienced one. Remember the cow, the ox, the timid one.
The old one.
Exactly, it's the old one, it's the most experienced one, it's the strongest one. So that's what A means. Strength.
The first one.
Exactly, senior, number one.
Yeah.
And then B, we said it means house, which means safety, walls. So Abba or Baba, the walls plus the strong one, or the house, safety, plus the senior one, the strong one, which means father is actually the strength of the house. Father is actually the strength that brings safety in the house. Father is actually the senior one of the house. It's in the language. When you decodify the language, you start to see exactly where this thing comes from. You see? Now, let's go to Mama. Just a minute. So, we've deciphered what father is, Baba or Abba or Ababa, which is two letters. A, strength, seniority. B, safety, structure, house. So the father is the senior, represents seniority in the house, represents strength in the family. Mara umama now comes from two letters, M and A in English. But then in our languages, which is the original language, it's M and A. You see? M, the letter itself comes from M for amanzi. That's why M is shaped like water. It's like waves of water. You see? The original shape of M is literally symbolizes water, flow, life. You see, because water is the source of life. It's the source of smooth flowing. So M, which is life and flow and smoothness. Which is seniority. Now the mother is the strength that brings about life in the house. The father, we said, brings about safety, right? Now the mother makes that smooth. She smoothens it. Did you hear that? Mama and Baba. Those are not polar opposites. These are complements. When they come together, you have Baba and Mama. They bring about safety, seniority, and smoothness and flow within the structure. That's why that feminine and masculine is critically important. But you could not understand this if you don't go deep and decipher what the origin of these alphabets is. So the alphabet M, look at it. It's a symbol of water, literally. You see? Remember, they used to draw pictures. They didn't have alphabets or what. So each and every alphabet that exists, it's a picture of something. And once you understand what that picture connotates, it may not be the literal meaning, but the connotation. So let's go to the letter G, for example, in English. But in our language, which is the original language, I want to say our language because there's variations of the language. You have isiXhosa, isiZulu, isiNdebele, isiSwati, isiPhuti, isiHlubi, isiBhaca, isilala, isiTonga. You have Xitsonga, Sotho, Sepedi, Sipulana.
And zonke zilapha eSouth Africa.
Exactly. Kilobedu.
And somehow as co-official.
Hey, Lord. These languages are not official. People are speaking Kilobedu there in Limpopo. People are speaking Spulana in Mpumalanga. People are speaking Sephuti in Lesotho and the Eastern Cape. People and these people are not even recognized. But then that's why it's important to understand those languages, because you start to realize, wow, it's the same language.
Even when you're filling your forms, bruh, like online, you will never see other languages.
Exactly. Even other ethnic tribes, for example. Because, for example, man, they will say you are black. What if you are not? What if I say I'm not black? What if I say I am brown? I see myself as brown. Do I have to? What's happening? You see? So what they're doing is really they're dumping us down with their system. It's the matrix. They are removing everything that is about you and they're imposing their own labels on you. They're calling you black. But then are you really black now? Yeah? Remember in our culture, man, you're not black. Unsundu abasutu.
Which means brown.
Brown, exactly. Like
the brown cow.
Yeah, it's like a cow.
Yeah.
You see? Like soil. So now the word black is used, but not to refer to sort of like people, but to refer to maybe when it's dark at night. You say kumnyama tsu, which means it's dark. Even the word white actually doesn't refer to a race. We never called white people mhlope. We never call them. We call them umlungu. We'll get to what that means some other time. We'll get to what that means some other time. That's for another day, because that's a whole different set. So the letter G, it's G. Do you know where it comes from? And so I told you it's pictures. So our ancestors used to draw what you call inkamela, a camel. They used to draw the back of a camel for the letter G. That's why in Greek, if you studied maths or physics, you know the letter for gamma rays or gamma waves, the symbol for gamma waves is like the back of a camel. It's like something like this, like the back of a camel. You see the symbol for gamma rays, because gamma is the letter in Hebrew. They say gamma. No. In Greek they say gamma. But then the original name of the letter is gibela or gimela, which means to load something. Ugimela or ugimela. Gamal. Hence the Greeks called it gamma. G. It's like literally the letter was literally just the back of a camel. Like it means a load, a heaviness. Because if you look at the back of a camel, that thing is heavy. You can see it's like it has a load on its back. Oh, unento egibele at his back or in his back. Hence they would call the letter G, because when you say gimela, you start with the letter G. Hence G, which is the letter gamma in Greek. It's literally the symbol is this and this. Like like a load, like this. It is the load at the back of a camel. Ugimela, because that thing igimele emqolo emhlana. So you will not understand the truth and the mysteries of our ancestors if you don't really know where things come from. But this knowledge is being revealed so that you can wake the hell up from this matrix. Let's move from the letter
Wake
G.
the heaven up.
Exactly. Wake the heaven up. Absolutely. To awaken the divinity that is inside of you. Let's move from this letter G, ne? Gimel. Let's go to the letter H, right? So H can occur in multiple forms, and I will tell you why. Because I told you at first that language is really just the manipulation of sounds. So there are sounds that when you when you produce them, you use your throat, like H comes from here. But then I can manipulate this sound. Now it's voiced. At first it was voiceless. It's voiceless. But then when I say, now it's voiced. But I can even create a guttural sound. It's voiceless, but it's guttural. It's voiced. I can even create another sound. You see? So all these different sounds, they are important because they are being used on a daily basis. When you say hamba, that's H. Now the letter H itself, if you look at the capital letter, you should see that it's a person who's standing up like this. 2 feet, 2 hands. This person is seeing wonders. That's what our ancestors used to draw. They used to draw a man with a head and literally 2 hands up. This man is shocked, man. This man is shocked because he sees something he's never seen before. That's how the letter H came about. Because when someone is shocked, they say or haibo, how. The first sound that comes out is what? Which is the root sound for the letter H. Hence, it is that man who's standing like this. Now, there are variations of this sound. As I said, there's another sound called which is in Hebrew, it's called khet, even in other languages. Now, it's khet or khati, which means in the middle or in the half. So, again, when you look at H, you can see it looks like a wall. Like you see bricks when you create a wall or a yard. Yes, it looks like a yard. So it's because of the variation of the sound. Sometimes the sound is someone who's lifting their hands up. Sometimes the sound is which means khati, in the middle, to divide something. And hence when they draw it like a yard. You see, when you because a yard is something that's used to divide things, you see. So that's the letter H. I'm gonna add one more letter. We'll do the other letter some other time. There's one letter that I want to add. It's K. Okay, I'm going to add 2 more. N and K.
Yeah, and then we're going to close this deal.
Yeah, because you have to get somewhere. So N, if you look at N, my brother, you know the letter N. You know how it's drawn. Remember I told you the letter M is literally water. Manzi or maji or mayi. Amayila, you know that. Now N, it's crazy, man. In Egyptian linguistics or alphabet, it was called Nun, and it was symbolized by what? A snake. So that's why it's like this. Nu.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Exactly. Nu.
Yeah.
Some languages they use the word nun, not in the sense of inunu, but in the sense of expansion. Unona, you see? So N is in between those two. But then if you look at the letter, you can see the shape is clearly the shape of a snake. It's a snake that's meandering. Inunu. That's how the letter N came about. So even if you go to those Egyptian walls, you see a snake sometimes that's shaped like this. I'm sure when you look at the hieroglyphics, you can see that snake. That's N. That's what became N 1,000 years later. Because it was stolen. When the Greeks came to Africa to study, they stole some of these things, But then those pictures, Alufa, you'd see a head of a cow. Bete, you'll see like a wall or the floor plan of a boomer or a hut. Gimel, you'd see the back of a camel. Maim or Mai or M, you'd see the shape of water. Nunu, you'd see the shape of a snake. All those letters, all those pictures are not just pictures, they represent sounds, right? And then when you bring those pictures together, you can write a name like Baba. Baba is literally two letters. B, which is better, the floor plan of a house or of a hut. A, which is aluf, which is the head of a cow. B, floor plan of a hut, head of a cow. So you can repeat it twice. Baba. Simple. Now, let's look at the letter. We just did nunu. Ne? Let's look at the letter K, right? So there are two types of K. Because K is either cake or cake. So let's look at both of them. Now, if you look at the letter K, right? There's K that's the one that you see. It's like this, right? It's K with this thing. The Greeks turned it upside down. It was originally like the shape of a hand. Shape of a hand that's holding something, right? Kamfu. When you're gripping something, in this clause they'll say, hey, umte kamfu, wambamba. That's where the letter K comes from. It used to be a shape of a hand, you see. But then now they've made it, they've turned it upside down. So it looks straight with those two things. But originally, it's upside down. You can go check it, actually. Just check the Hebrew letter Kaf or the Arabic letter Kaf. All languages, they have K. Just look at all these old languages and look at the shape. You'll see the drawing, the original drawing of K. It's a hand. The other K is Kof. Kof, you see? And that one, it's Q. Yes, Q. Q is actually K, Kof. Now, if you look at Q, it's a round thing with a tail. We used to say liqandel nomsil. Yeah, liqandel nomsil. Yeah. Which means a round thing with a tail. So that's K, that's Q. But then Q itself comes from the word inkope. Inkope is literally the lashes of the eye. But then if you look at the eye is round, right? And you look at the iris of the eye. Is it the iris? Yeah, it's like that round thing there. It's round. And then inkope, which is the lash, you see, the lash is it's straight, and then the eye is round like this. That's Q. Q comes from the word inkope. So our ancestors, when they would say the word inkope, they realized the sound of inkope. Which means you are holding your tears by the lashes or by these things here that you use for blinking. So inkope is the word itself that our ancestors, when we say this word, there's a sound that comes from it. How can we symbolize that sound graphically? Remember, language is abstract. So in order to be able to represent it in a physical way where you can see it, they have to think of something physical, right? So they thought of, the eye and the lash, inkope zamehlo. Hence it was called kof in Hebrew. When they thought of the hand, when you grab someone, kamfu or kamfu, they were like, okay, how can we symbolize this graphically? Let's put a hand there. You see? Hence, K was the shape of a hand. Kof was the shape of eye with a lash. A was the shape of a head of a cow. The whole point was to transfer what is abstract and make it, physical, so that our people could be able to communicate. If I'm here and you're not here, I could just draw something on the wall, and then you'll understand that, okay, this is what this person is saying. Then thousands of years later now, when the knowledge has been lost over the generations because of conquest and nations rise and fall, some nations took this knowledge and made it theirs. Hey, they came here and then they told us, you are savages, you don't know how to write. But think about this. The word for write in my language is ubala, bala, which means to write. Now, if you look at some of the older languages, for example, the Paleo-Hebrew, the old ancient Hebrew, to write is ba'ar, right? When you write down something, you ba'ar. So the stones that they used to write in, they used to ba'ar the stones, which means to inscribe, to dig in the stones as they are writing. We have that word bala, and it didn't come from Europe. So if these Europeans come and claim that we didn't know what writing is, how come we have the word, that we have the vocabulary for it?
When we saw them doing it, we say,
Oh, yeah, bala. It's like to read.
Yeah.
To read, we know exactly what to read.
Yeah.
Ukufunda.
Yeah.
Or to read aloud. We say, kala, uyakhala, or uyakwazi, uyamemeza. They didn't tell us. We didn't borrow any word from them for reading. If we didn't know what reading is, do you get it?
Yeah.
We would have borrowed a word for them. There are things that we probably didn't know that they came with. For example, computer. You see, or even food like burgers. We didn't have burgers, right?
Yeah.
We call them burgers even to this day. So it's clear that we didn't have it.
Cooking oil.
Exactly, cooking oil. Although we had oil itself, our food, we extracted it in other ways, much more organic ways, because it's not a it's not a trade mesh to extract oil. Even to this day, they still come here to Africa to get shea butter oil and all these other oils that are good for cooking actually. So we did have oil. It's just that the one they came with, we didn't have a name for that. But now, all of a sudden, we have a name for reading and writing, even before they tell us about. So you can tell already that we had a system that worked. We didn't actually need their own system. So those are just few letters of the alphabet. We did B, we did G. We did we didn't even do F and P. So P and F, here's an interesting thing. I'll just say this. P, if you look at P, it's a line with something curvy little thing there. But then the original letter of P is like this. It's not a line, actually, it's a curve. It's P, if you can take P the way it is, but then curve it this side. So it's like an open mouth. So as I was saying, if you look at the letter P, they draw it as a straight line with that semi-spherical shape. But then the original letter P was like more like a C with that spherical shape, right? So instead of the straight line, it was more like this.
Okay, like a 6.
Aha. Literally, it's a shape of an open mouth. With teeth. Yes, that's what P comes. P actually comes from pa, or puo. Puo, which means speech, to talk, to say something. If you speak Sesotho, you know puo.
Yeah.
Puo.
We even say when we're telling you something secret that ungayithi pa.
So don't pa this.
Yeah.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
That's the word P. It's drawn as an open mouth pa.
Yeah.
So when you say pa, the first sound that comes out is P, which means the letter P comes out when you say the word pa, which means to open your mouth. Hence, also I was like, okay, how do we then sort of like represent this word pa? Like, what does the word mean? The word means to open your mouth. Then let's draw that there. You understand? Alupa. What does alupa to mean? It means to be senior, like a senior cow. Let's draw the cow then. What does nunu mean? It means a snake. Let's draw a snake then. And then after thousands of years now, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, blah, 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 blah. And they make it seem like it's this complicated nonsense. No! They took it from us. So I think we'll end here. The next time I want us to sort of like address the other letters like D, S, R, and all the other letters that we have. Yeah.
Now, because you mentioned belungu,
Yes.
so I want you to also do a conclusion on that.
We'll
Probably on
that.
the following video
Yes,
or something.
We'll decide. That's why I'm starting with the language, so that we understand that these things are codified. These things are codified. Now, when we get into Abelu, now you'll actually see, oh wow, actually it's much deeper than we thought. Ciao.
Peace.